Welcome to your July Middle School Take and Make. I am going to show you how to make a rocket pop bookmark today. Most of the supplies you need are already in your white bag, and I would recommend tipping out the contents like so rather than reaching in because there is a needle. It is in a piece of orange felt, so be careful with that. There's also some more felt pieces. There's 2 white pieces, 2 blue pieces, 2 red pieces. There's some white embroidery floss, a gold ribbon, and then you'll also need to provide your own scissors. And then fabric glue or tacky glue is optional, but I highly recommend it. The first thing I'm going to do is to glue my pieces together. And this is just going to help when we're stitching. If the pieces aren't glued together, you have to be much more careful with how you're holding them. So just to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to add a little bit of glue on the bottom and on the top of the white piece. You don't have to put too much on. You just want to hold the pieces together so that they're easier to stitch. So there we go. We're going to put the blue piece on the bottom and the red piece on the top. So I've glued both my pieces and the glue is dry. Now I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim a little bit just to make sure that the lines are even. So I'm going to just trim off a little bit of the white. Like so. And a little bit on this side as well. There we go. So now the lines are even on both sides. And I'm going to do this one too. Yeah, this white piece is way too big on this side, see? Okay. Now I'm going to stack the pieces on top of each other, like so. And just kind of make sure it's lined up on the front and the back. If there was a whole part sticking out, you might want to use your scissors to trim again, but this looks pretty good. So I'm going to grab my glue one more time and just add a little dollop to the end of my ribbon. And then I'm going to place this inside my little popsicle sandwich here. And we will stitch it in place later. This is just again to hold it, to make it easier to stitch. We are ready to start stitching, so carefully remove the needle from the piece of felt. And I'm going to take my white floss and unwind it. I have it doubled up, so it's a lot longer than it looks at first. There we go. I purposely made sure that the needle I included had a pretty big eye to it, so it shouldn't be too hard to thread. There we go. And I'm going to pull it to about halfway, just because that makes it easier. And then I'm going to tie a knot in one end of the floss. And I might tie a couple knots There we go. So it's a pretty big knot because I tied 2 knots. Now it's time to start stitching. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick my needle through only one. So there's the bottom and there's the top. And I'm going to stick my needle only through the top piece. And then I'm going to tuck the tail inside. You could also trim it down a little if you'd like. And there we go. We're ready to start our blanket stitch. So what you're going to do is stick your needle in from the back, like so, and you're going to pull it most of the way through, but then you're going to go back and loop it through the loop you just made and pull it tight. And we're going to do that again, so stick it in through the back. And it's a little hard here because there's 4 pieces of felt all stacked up. And again, you're going to pull it through almost all the way, but then loop it back through. There we go. And again, we're just going to continue. We're only going to do this stitch over and over. I'm keeping it about the same distance apart and about the same distance from the edge. You don't want it to be too close to the edge. There we go. It's a little hard to see the white on the white. It'll be easier to see once I move into the red. There we go. And if you stick your needle through in the wrong spot, you can always pull it back out and then rethread your needle. This is another one of the really hard ones because there's the 4 layers here, but I'm pulling it through. There we go. I'm approaching the corner here. And I'm just going to turn around the corner. You don't have to make any special stitch. And if you accidentally forget to loop it back and you pull it all the way through, like I've done now, you can actually just take your needle and go back and stick it under, like so. And there you go. Now you have your blanket stitch continuing. And you're just going to continue stitching all the way around. As you can see, I'm almost finished. I have one more stitch to do. And I'm going to put it right through where my first stitch was. Oh, and I pulled it a little too far. So let me go back and grab it. There we go. And so we are blanket stitched around the whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and tie off. I'm going to take my needle and go under the first stitch that I did here and just pull it through, and again go back through the loop. I'm just going to do that again. Pull it tight. There we go. So it's a pretty good knot. It's not going to come out. And then you can clip this off, or I'll show you what I do. I put my needle in between the pieces. So I made a little hole and I stuck the needle in through the pieces. Then I'm going to poke it out through one of the sides, pull all my floss through. Okay, and then I'm going to pull off my needle and put it away for safekeeping, just so I don't accidentally poke myself. There we go. Now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to pull the thread coming out from the front really tight. And then I'm going to trim. And since you're pulling it tight, when you let it go then, the little piece goes back inside. My Rocket Pop bookmark is all finished, and here I have a book, Kelly Yang's New From Here, and I can just pop my bookmark in with the Rocket Pop sticking up on the top, and I am all ready to read. Thanks for watching.